Hey everyone, it's Barbara Tuckle. It is the first full week of January. I know last week sort of still felt like a holiday with the New Year's, but here we are in the first full week. As you can see behind me, look at how bright I have the shades down, but it's very bright, very sunny here today. No clouds in the sky. It's cold because it is Wisconsin, but it's so nice to see the full sunshine. I just love it. Always makes me feel brighter and chipper, and I hope you're feeling the same way. So today I was wondering, what am I going to, I'm going to work with the Oracle cards again and share a message with you, but I didn't know what subject I was really going to talk about. So I came out here to my writing cottage and I had to turn my planner book to the new week. I hadn't done that yet. And this is a planner I got this year. I love it so far, called One Day at a Time by Abby Wynn. She's a woman from Ireland who's an energy healer. I just love her work. So anyways, I had to flip the week to the new week, and just as I did, at the beginning of each month, she has a little passage and some information that she shares. But the word that really jumped out at me when I turned the page, or before I turned the page, was presence. And I thought, ooh, I like that. How can we practice more presence in our life? Because that's something I've really, I've been doing that for a lot of years, but it just seems more magnified to me the last few years. And really, it's more than just practicing presence in the present moment. It's about learning how to feel, and once you learn how you feel when you're practicing being in the present moment, you're going to want more of it, because it feels really good. Because as human beings, we tend to project, look at the past, or we project into the future, right? And both of those places can sometimes have us feeling really anxious. So I wanted to pull oracle cards around that and see what it is we need to know about practicing presence more in our lives, and what better time than to start as we start this brand new year, this brand new decade. So I worked with the wisdom of the oracle, and the card I got, at first I was like, no, not that card again. But it is Never Ending Story. And this was a card that when I was learning how to read oracles in oracle school, and one of the very first readings we did on becoming, it was a reading on becoming, this was the first card that I pulled. I'm going to be honest with you, I wanted to cry, because that's how I felt at the time, is I was in this never-ending pattern that just wasn't fun, and was very frustrating. But I would come to see, and this is all going to play into what I'm going to talk about with practicing presence, but I would come to see that Never-Ending Story was actually a great card to pull, because it brought me this new awareness, it brought me this new perspective, and it brought me this opportunity that it said, hey, listen, you get to change. This is a really good thing. So I now like this card when I get it, but sometimes I fall back into my old habits. And as I'm thinking about sharing with you today, practicing presence, I thought, oh no, what is this card about for this message today? But I get it. So as I learned from my teacher, we are a story in motion. What we are in this moment, we have already changed as we go into the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. We are always evolving, right? But there are ingrained patterns in us that we have picked up from a long time ago, perhaps from your childhood. And these are perhaps from society as well. And it takes time. When we're thinking about practicing presence, it takes time to create a new space, a new pattern in our lives. So as I look at Never Ending Story, thinking about practicing presence, and I see the girl sitting on the hourglass, and she looks frustrated. Her wings are down. She feels depleted. She doesn't know if she can go on. And sometimes when we are trying to practice presence, Our mind and our brain wants to try and take over, and especially if it's something that we're uncertain about and we want to know the answer and we want to know it now. You know how hard it is to try and be in the present moment? But in reality, that's all that we have. So I believe that this card is saying to us, first acknowledge that yes, you are feeling frustrated because you don't know what, the future holds, if that's something you're feeling concerned about. And in reality, that's when we do pop out of being in the present moment, like I said, if we're worrying about the future or we're getting stuck in the past. So I also noticed on the card, and you might be able to see this too if I hold it up close enough, there's a heart down in the bubble of the hourglass. And the word, I couldn't make out any of the other words on the heart, but the word that stood out to me was love. And I thought, yeah, isn't that true? I know for myself, I'm much better at this now, but I could tend to beat myself up when I was worried about the future. And then I would get caught in this cycle of I'm not good enough, right? So never-ending story, and trying to practice being in the presence is reminding us to love ourselves through all of this. And it takes time to learn a new habit and to put a new pattern into place. So then as I turned to the guidebook to see if there's any other information that might be helpful as we practice presence, is the line that stood out to me. It says, "You are not your story. The narrator is simply the voice of your fearful part, small and vulnerable and easily soothed." And it's so true. It is that part of us when we worry about the future. It is that fearful part of us because we don't know what it looks like. And then we get caught up in trying to figure it out when in reality we really can't figure it out. And that's the moment that is calling us to come back into the present moment. So I thought I would share an example with you that might help. Is 2 years ago, which this is something I wrote about in my new book coming out soon, I'm Fine Just the Way I Am. I was going through a really, really tough time with my dog Gidget. And she had many different health challenges. And I kept feeling like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like the vets didn't believe in or weren't on board. The vet that I went to wasn't on board with what I was trying to do to help Gidget. But a lot of it was because of my own insecurity, my own concern about the future. I was worrying if I was going to have enough financial resources to take care of her. And I really worried that I just wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't enough. And I was internally beating myself up all the time. And, I was really in this place of spiraling into total anxiousness. And even though I didn't recognize it at the moment, there was depression involved as well. I was depressed. And the whole thing about that time, though, when I think about being in the present moment and practicing presence, is I was caught up in projection. So I was projecting. First of all, I was projecting on myself that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't doing enough, because I was. I loved that dog so much, and I was doing everything in my power to make sure that she was living a healthy life as possible. So, but the projection I was doing that I wasn't doing enough, and I was projecting about the future that, I wasn't going to be able to take care of her. My own mental state was suffering, as well as I was worried about the financial part of it. So in times like that, sometimes it is hard to be in the present moment and practice presence. But what I've since learned from that is when we can bring ourselves back into the present moment and stop projecting, we can bring ourselves more to this inner state of calm. So that's why I share that story with you. And, it took help. I had to get help for that and get support to be able to do that. And I'm really glad that I did, because I can now see I have more clarity about, what was transpiring in my life at that time. So, and now practicing presence, I've learned that it's about feeling my way through all my feelings, even when I'm feeling really frustrated. It's also about saying, I'm really pissed that I don't know what the future holds. I'm scared. And then once I acknowledge those things, then I can come to that space of, okay, all I have is here and now. I'm doing the best that I can. And what I've learned to do now too is to really concentrate on my breath. And a lot of times I'll take like 4 deep, really deep breaths, and that will bring me back into the present moment. So I hope by sharing that helps you a little bit too with practicing being in the presence. Practicing presence, I should say. So what animal is guiding us as we learn to be in the present moment more often and not project out in the future or get stuck in the past? And the card that I pulled is Fox. Now, at first when I looked, I couldn't figure out what the fox, I was immediately drawn to the fox's face. And I was looking at her face and looking at her face, and I thought, what is she trying to tell me? And then I realized as I looked at her, I just saw her face as having this really deep empathy. And that's a message for us to have empathy for ourselves. That, we have been taught these patterns to worry about the future or to get stuck in the past. To create a new pattern of being in the presence, we have to be kind to ourselves and gentle with ourselves and loving with ourselves. And that's what I was getting from Fox, like just getting this deep, deep empathy from her. So I hope you can feel that too, because I really feel that from her. So the other thing that jumped out at me from this card regarding practicing presence is the word leadership really jumped out at me. And I thought, oh my goodness, isn't that true? We have to be the leaders of our own lives. And, we can worry about the future. We have a choice. We can worry about the future, or we can bring ourselves back into the present moment. We always have the choice. So we're always the leader of making that choice. And I'm looking here at my notes too. The old pattern that is ingrained to us from the never-ending story is, I think, so often we look to external sources or the external world or to somebody else to help us feel better, when in reality it's up to us to bring ourselves back to the present moment and help ourselves to feel better. And then also this card, as I learn a little bit more about tarot and understanding how that works, it is the Knight of Wands. And Wands is about fire and creativity. And so when you think about practicing presence, get creative with how you're going to bring that into your life. Maybe you're going to start with just 1 minute in the morning. Or maybe you're going to find yourself, I know, like sometimes when I'm driving down the road, I'll be like worrying about all these things I have to do and then getting caught up in that cycle. And then I'll stop and I'll be like, that's all going to come when it's supposed to come. And then I'll just focus like on the blue sky, or I'll, focus on the road, or I'll focus on a tree that looks really pretty. That's something else that you can do also about bring yourself back into the present moment. So you got to get creative with it and just kind of play around with it and see what feels right for you. And then also, okay, I did share that with you. Oh, and then Fox. Fox can be very elusive. And I think that plays into thinking about practicing presence. And it's probably going to feel elusive sometimes, like you just can't do it. And then when I thought about that and I saw the word passion, that jumped out at me as a reminder that we are worth it. We are all worth it to bring ourselves into the present moment and to feel better. So as you become the leader of your life, of how you want to feel, and then bring passion to that, and bring passion to yourself that you are worth it. And then also when I thought about Fox, I heard the word den, of course, because they live in dens. I heard that in my head. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly it. It's about retreating inward at any given moment when you're feeling a little anxious. And then reminding yourself, my favorite, favorite thing my mom always says, though it's not her quote, but she has shared with me many times. And sometimes I remember in years past I hated it, but now I understand it. And this too shall pass, because it always does, right? It always does, and it always works out. Maybe not as we exactly planned when we get caught up in worrying about the future, but it's always for our highest good. So that is the message from the oracles this week for practicing presence. To remember that, this is an opportunity to change our patterns and to create a new one, and one that feels more in line and with us and feels good to our heart and our soul. And then Fox, about being the leader and making the choices about, practicing being in the presence. And that we can do this, right? All right. Okay, everyone, this video got a little long this week, but that's okay, right? So have a great week, and if you are in need of additional support, something you're feeling that you're having a struggle with, that you are frustrated by, I am here for you. Please do feel free to reach out to me. I do offer oracle reading guidance sessions, and I would love to connect with you and guide you if I can be of support. So have a great week, everyone. Take good care. Bye.